Who the hell authorized that transmission? The voice cut through the low hum of the aircraft, sharp and laced with barely contained fury. General Marcus Cole, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, stood rigid, his dress blues immaculate despite the unfolding apocalypse, knuckles white where he gripped the edge of the polished conference table. His glare was fixed on Dr. Aris Thorne, the National Security Advisor, who met the gaze with the corners that bordered on the reptilian. Thorne, dressed in a bespoke suit that somehow seemed offensively pristine under the circumstances, adjusted his glances almost languidly. I advised the President that attempting to re-establish contact with European Command was strategically imperative, General, Thorne replied, his voice smooth, devoid of the panic simmering just beneath the surface in everyone else. We need situational awareness. Flying blind over the Pacific serves no one. Flying blind? Cole slammed a hand flat on the table, making the secure comms unit rattle. Coffee sloshed in nearby mugs. Doctor, my situational awareness tells me that every major command center that's broadcast in the clear in the last 12 hours has gone silent 30 minutes later. NORAD is gone. STRATCOM is gone. EUCOM hasn't answered a Priority 1 flash for 6 hours. You didn't re-establish contact. You painted a goddamn bullseye on this fucking plane. Air Force One, designated SAM 28000 for this flight carrying the President, cleaved for the stratosphere somewhere over the vast uncaring blue of the Pacific Ocean. Below, twilight was probably painting the waves, but up here, at 43,000 feet, the sky was a deep, bruised purple fading to black, stars twinkling in the night. It had started 18 hours ago, or maybe longer. First came the fragmented reports, dismissed initially as sensor ghosts or atmospheric interference. Then the visuals. Objects, impossibly fast, utterly silent, maneuvering in ways that defied known physics, appearing over major cities. Not attacking, initially, just appearing. Then, widespread silence. Communications blackouts rolled across continents like malevolent fog. Power grids failed. Satellites blinked out. And then, the brief, terrifying glimpses relayed by dying news feeds or scrambled military channels. Destruction on an unimaginable scale. Structures vaporized to dust. Oceans boiling. Energy pulses erasing entire city blocks. There were no demands, no explanations. Plain erasure. President Jonathan Hayes sat at the head of the table, looking older than his 62 years. His face was ashen, eyes red-rimmed behind his own glasses. He hadn't slept. Nobody had, not really. Catnaps fueled by adrenaline and caffeine didn't count. He rubbed his temples. Eris, the President began, his voice raspy, tired. Was broadcasting truly necessary? Couldn't we have tried passive listening first? General Cole has a point about the transmission risk. Thorne shifted slightly, a flicker of something. Impatience? Condescension? Crossing his features before being smoothed away. Mr. President, passive listening yielded nothing but static and, frankly, the panicked final screams of dying networks. A directed, encrypted burst towards known EUCOM frequencies was a calculated risk. If any allied command structure remains viable, they need to know we remain viable. Leadership requires visibility, even now. Especially now. Leadership requires survival, Doctor! Cole shot back, leaning across the table. And survival means not inviting whatever the hell is down there up here for a closer look. This plane, this office. He gestured towards the President. Is potentially the last bastion of the United States government. We protect it, period. That means radio silence, emission control, minimum necessary comms, maximum security posture. Maria Flores, the Chief of Staff, stepped subtly between the two men. A formidable presence in her own right, her dark pantsuit seemed almost like armor. Gentlemen, please, Lower your voices. We're all under immense strain. Her eyes flickered towards the secure door leading out of the conference room. Beyond it, the rest of the plane housed dozens of personnel. Secret Service agents, communication specialists, flight crew, military aides, medical staff, a skeletal press corps contingent now utterly irrelevant. Panic was contagious. Strain! Cole scoffed, though he did lower his volume marginally. Maria, we are hours past strain. We are terra incognita. We have reports, unconfirmed but credible, of phenomena over Russia, China. Similar patterns. London is silent. Paris is silent. Tokyo. God, Tokyo went dark 3 hours ago while we were still over the continental US. This isn't a conventional war, it's... He trailed off, unable to voice the word. Extinction. A soft chime interrupted the tension. All eyes snapped towards the integrated comms panel. Master Sergeant Ben Carter, head of the communications team on board, appeared on one of the smaller screens, his face pale and taut. He looked barely 30, but the last day had aged him a decade. Mr. President, General, Carter said, his voice strained but professional. Sir, we picked up something. On the frequency Dr. Thorne authorized. A collective intake of breath. Thorne allowed himself a minuscule, tight smile. You see, General? Calculated risk. What is it, Sergeant? President Hayes leaned forward, his fatigue momentarily forgotten. It's garbled, sir. Heavily distorted. Seems automated. Repeating loop. Audio only, no data signature I can recognize. Encrypted, maybe, but not with any code we use or are keyed for. It's... well, sir, you should probably hear it. Carter fiddled with something off-screen. Silence descended again, thick and heavy, broken only by the faint whine of the avionics and the rush of air past the fuselage. Then, static erupted from the conference room speakers, followed by a sound that chilled the blood. It wasn't words, not in any human language. It was a series of clicks, whistles, and deep guttural chimes, arranged in a complex repeating pattern. It sounded ancient, alien, and utterly, terrifyingly intelligent. Beneath the alien signal, almost buried in the noise, was something else. A faint, rhythmic pulse. Thump thump, thump thump. Major Kenji Tanaka, the president's military aide standing unobtrusively near the bulkhead, stiffened almost imperceptibly. He exchanged a quick, worried glance with David Chen, the lead Secret Service agent, who stood near the door, his hand never far from the concealed weapon beneath his jacket. Chen's eyes scanned the room, assessing not external threats, but internal ones. The strain was showing on everyone. What the hell is that? Hayes whispered, leaning closer to the speaker. Thorne frowned, tilting his head. The primary signal is unknown, obviously. The rhythmic pulse underneath? Seismic? Or perhaps... Cole cut him off. Or perhaps it's the bastards digging in after wiping out Stuttgart, he said grimly, referencing the last confirmed report from Yukon before it went dark. Sergeant Carter, can you isolate that secondary pulse? Analyze its frequency origin? Trying, General, Carter replied, his brow furrowed in concentration on the screen. It's faint, almost masked by the primary signal's harmonics. Doesn't seem terrestrial in origin. The propagation... It's weird, sir. No Doppler shift I can measure accurately, which makes no sense unless the source is stationary relative to us or moving at relativistic speeds, or the signal isn't propagating through normal space-time. Thorne finished quickly, voicing his thought no one else dared. Fascinating. Cut the transmission, Sergeant, Cole ordered sharply. Now, log the frequency, log the signal characteristics, but shut it down. We've broadcast our position, heard gibberish, and learned nothing useful, except that something is out there using frequencies we know. Shut it down! General, with respect, Thorne interjected, turning to the President. This is useful. It's the first non-human, potentially intelligent signal we've received. We need to analyze it, Attempt decryption. Attempt decryption? Cole exploded again, his voice regaining its parade ground volume. Are you insane? For all we know, that signal contains a virus, a mimetic weapon, God knows what. We are in a sealed environment. You do not invite the contamination in. General Cole has operational command authority in this specific matter, Aris, President Hayes said, his voice regaining a measure of firmness. He looked at Carter's image on the screen. Sergeant, comply with the General's order. Cease reception of that signal. Maintain strict MCON. Yes, Mr. President. Will go, General. Carter's image blinked out. Thorne pressed his lips together into a thin white line, but said nothing further. The air in the room felt thick enough to choke on. The alien clicks and chimes echoed in the sudden silence, replaced only by the hum of the plane and the frantic pounding of hearts. David Chen shifted his weight slightly. His earpiece, usually relaying mundane updates from his team, dispersed throughout the aircraft, had been mostly silent, punctuated only by terse status checks. Now, a low murmur came through. He listened intently for a moment, his expression unchanging, a mask of professional calm honed over years of service. He subtly touched the transmit button on his wristcom. Sid Rep, he murmured, his voice barely audible above the ambient noise. The reply was equally quiet, tight with tension. Agent Chen, sir, we have a situation developing aft, near the staff quarters. Raised voices. Major Billings from the security detail and some of the junior staffers. Talk about diverting. Talk about disagreeing with command. Chen's blood ran cold. Billings. Air Force security forces. Part of the expanded detail brought aboard for contingency. Ex-pararescue. Tough, capable, but known for a stubborn streak and a belief in decisive, often unilateral action. If he was losing his cool... Specifics? Chen breathed into his mic. Talking about heading south. Australia, New Zealand. Saying heading towards known bunkers like Cheyenne Mountain or Raven Rock is suicide. Flying straight into the fire. Saying command is compromised. Listening to Thorne. The voice in his ear hesitated. Saying maybe POTUS isn't fit to command anymore. Mutiny. The word hung unspoken, but everyone knew it. Here, at 43,000 feet with the world ending below, the carefully constructed hierarchy that kept them all alive was threatening to shatter. He looked at the president, slumped slightly in his chair, the picture of exhaustion and crushing responsibility. He looked at Cole, ramrod straight but with a tremor of rage and fear in his hands. He looked at Thorne, analytical and cold, perhaps dangerously detached. He looked at Flores, trying desperately to hold the center. Who was fit to command? The question itself felt like treason. Maintain observation, Chen ordered quietly. Do not engage unless threat escalates. Keep comms open. I'm informing the president. He straightened up, catching Maria Flores' eye. He gave a subtle, almost imperceptible shake of his head. She understood immediately. Her face, already pale, lost another shade. Mr. President, Chen said, stepping forward, his voice low but clear, cutting through the residual tension from the argument about the signal. Sir, Agent Davies reports a disagreement among some personnel aft. Raised voices. Discussion about our current course and command decisions. He chose his words carefully, avoiding inflammatory terms, but the implication was unavoidable. President Hayes looked up, his eyes focusing slowly as if returning from a great distance. Disagreement. General Cole spun around, his face thunderous. What kind of disagreement, Agent Chen? Be specific. Sir. Chen met the General's eyes squarely. Concerned about our destination. Concerned about leadership. Major Billings is involved. Cole swore under his breath, a string of harsh, clipped curses. Billings? God damn it! Always thought that man was wound too tight. Maria, get Billings up here. Now. And the senior NCO for the security detail. General, perhaps a direct confrontation isn't wise right now, Flores cautioned, her hand hovering over the internal phone system. People are scared. Pulling Billings out might escalate things. Scared? Cole shot back. We're all scared. That doesn't excuse insubordination. This is Air Force One, damn it, not a debating society. Discipline must be maintained or we're all dead. The General is correct, Maria, President Hayes said, pushing himself straighter in his chair. Some fire returned to his eyes. We cannot tolerate a breakdown in the chain of command. Get Major Billings and Master Sergeant Henderson, is it? Get them both to the conference room immediately. Agent Chen, have your team ensure corridors are clear, but remain non-confrontational unless absolutely necessary. Yes, Mr. President, Chen acknowledged, relaying the orders quietly into his wristcom. As Flores made the call, the conference room door hissed open. It wasn't Billings or Henderson. It was Colonel Eva Rostova, the aircraft commander. Her flight suit showed wrinkles from hours on the flight deck. Her expression was grim, etched with fatigue, but her eyes were sharp, alert. She held a folded printout in her hand. Mr. President, General, she said, her voice calm but carrying undeniable authority within her domain, the aircraft itself. Sorry to interrupt, but you need to see this. She didn't wait for permission, laying the printout on the table. It was a satellite weather overlay, integrated with their flight path. Standard procedure, Rostova explained, pointing to a section of the map. We've been monitoring atmospheric conditions. There's an anomaly directly ahead along our projected track towards Hawaii. On the map, amidst the usual swirls of cloud cover and pressure systems, was a rapidly expanding zone of nothing. Not just clear air, but a complete lack of any energy signature. Thermal, electromagnetic, even background radiation seemed suppressed. It was a void, growing outwards from a point roughly 200 nautical miles ahead of them. What is that? Hayes asked, leaning over the map. We don't know, sir, Rostova replied flatly. It wasn't there 30 minutes ago. It's expanding at approximately Mach 3. Standard weather radar doesn't penetrate it. Infrared shows nothing. Just cold. Colder than the surrounding stratosphere should be. Our SIGINT technicians... She nodded towards the comm section beyond the conference room. Report extreme broadband absorption within the zone. Nothing gets out. We suspect nothing gets in, neither. Thorne peered at the map, his earlier coolness replaced by intense curiosity. A localized energy sink? Or some kind of field effect? Technologically generated, obviously. Obviously, Cole growled. And directly in our path. Colonel, can we divert? Rostova shook her head, tapping another printout she produced. Fuel projections. Not easily, General. Our last deviation to avoid that plasma storm over California cost us significant reserves. We were banking on refueling at Hickam. This void, as you call it, is expanding rapidly. A diversion north or south would add hours to our flight time, pushing our fuel endurance to critical limits. We'd be landing on fumes, assuming we can even find a viable runway anywhere further west. Everything beyond Hawaii is uncertain. Uncertain? Cole barked a harsh laugh. Colonel, Wake Island is reporting seismic events that don't match any geological scale. Guam hasn't responded in 2 hours. Hickam itself, we don't know its status for sure. The last message was garbled, something about structures liquefying. So we fly into that? Flores asked, horrified, pointing at the growing black splotch on the map. It may be our only option besides ditching in the middle of the Pacific, Rostova stated calmly. We continue on course, monitor the anomaly's boundary. If it stabilizes or dissipates, we proceed to Hickam, assuming it still exists. If it continues to expand and engulf our path, we'll have to make a decision. Fly through it, or turn back towards... well, towards whatever is left of the west coast. The conference room door opened again. This time it was Major Billings and Master Sergeant Henderson. Billings was tall, powerfully built, his jaw set, eyes defiant. Henderson, older, weathered, looked deeply uncomfortable, caught between loyalty to his men and the chain of command. They stood framed in the doorway, flanked unobtrusively by 2 Secret Service agents from Chen's detail. "Major Billings, Master Sergeant Henderson, reporting his orders, sir," Henderson said formally, his voice tight. Billings just stared at General Cole, his gaze hard. Cole ignored Henderson, fixing his attention on the Major. "Major Billings, Agent Chen informs me you've been voicing strong opinions regarding this aircraft's destination and command structure. Care to elaborate?" Billings didn't flinch. "Yes, General, I have, sir." The "sir" sounded like an afterthought, almost insolent. "With all due respect, flying towards known targets like Hickam or the mainland bunkers is tactical insanity. Whatever hit the major command centers knew where they were. They'll know where we're likely to run. It's predictable. It's suicide." "And what's your alternative, Major?" President Hayes asked, his voice dangerously quiet. "South, Mr. President," Billings said, turning his gaze to Hayes, though his tone remained challenging. "Australia. Remote bases. Less strategic value initially. Buy us time. Regroup. Find allies. This plane has the range. Continuing on this course, especially with that," he gestured towards Rostova's map, "ahead of us, is playing their game. The decision of this aircraft's destination rests with the President, advised by his staff and the aircraft commander," Cole stated icily. "It does not rest with junior officers fomenting dissent among the enlisted personnel and civilian staff." "Dissent?" Billings bristled. "Sir, people are terrified. They see us flying towards oblivion based on pre-invasion protocols. They hear transmissions being sent out against military advice." He shot a look at Thorne, "potentially broadcasting our exact location. They see indecision. They need leadership that adapts, General, not leadership sticking to a playbook written for a war we aren't fighting." "Are you questioning my orders, Major?" Cole stepped closer, his voice dropping to a menacing growl. The 2 military men were inches apart, radiating hostility. "I'm questioning the logic, General," Billings shot back, refusing to back down. "I'm questioning flying into a damn black hole based on hope." "Enough!" President Hayes slammed his hand on the table, harder this time. The sound cracked through the tension like a gunshot. Everyone froze. "Major Billings, you are relieved of your security oversight duties effective immediately. Master Sergeant Henderson, you will ensure the Major is escorted to his assigned quarters and remains there. Confine him if necessary. Ensure the rest of the security detail understands that discipline will be maintained. Is that clear?" Henderson swallowed hard. "Sir, yes, Mr. President. Crystal clear." He looked at Billings, a mixture of frustration and resignation in his eyes. Billings opened his mouth to protest, his face flushed with anger, but Chen subtly shifted his stance, one hand moving fractionally closer to his sidearm. The message was unmistakable. Billings clamped his jaw shut, vibrating with fury, but nodded curtly. He turned and walked out, Henderson trailing miserably behind him. The Secret Service agents fell in step. The door hissed shut, leaving an even heavier silence in its wake. The near mutiny had been quashed for now, but the fear, the doubt, the fracturing of unity, it was palpable. "Colonel Rostova," Hayes said, his voice strained but firm, "maintain present course. Keep us informed of any change in the anomalous status or fuel projections. Advise immediately if Hickam transmits anything coherent." "Yes, Mr. President." Rostova gave a crisp nod, gathered her printouts, and exited back towards the flight deck, the nerve center of the aircraft. Hayes looked around the table at the remaining figures. Cole, still simmering with anger, but his posture slightly less confrontational. Thorn, observing everything with unnerving detachment. Flores, looking drained but resolute. Chen, a silent sentinel by the door. "Eris," Hayes said, turning to his national security advisor. "That signal we intercepted, the alien one, you said it might contain information." Thorn nodded slowly. "Potentially, Mr. President. Language, intent, technology. If we could decode even a fraction—" "No," Hayes interrupted, holding up a hand. "Not decoding. General Cole's concerns about embedded threats are valid. But the sound of it, the pattern. Is there any possibility, any at all, that it wasn't hostile?" Thorn considered this, steepling his fingers. "Hostility is perhaps an anthropocentric projection, Mr. President. It could be anything. A beacon, a territorial marker, a simple data stream unrelated to us, a warning." A warning. The word hung in the air. A warning about what? The destruction already wrought? Or something worse? Something waiting within the silent void expanding before them. "Keep monitoring all frequencies passively, Sergeant Carter," Hayes ordered, speaking towards the comms panel speaker, though Carter wasn't currently displayed. "Everything. Log anything unusual, anything at all, but no transmissions. Understood?" A disembodied, "Yes, Mr. President," came back instantly. Hayes sat back in his chair, the brief surge of command authority ebbing away, leaving bone-deep weariness. They were still flying towards the unknown, towards a potential dead end over Hickam, or a terrifying void in the sky. They had fuel for perhaps 10 more hours, maybe 12 if they throttled back and descended, increasing drag but conserving reserves. 12 hours to find a safe haven in a world that seemed determined to offer none. Below them, the Pacific stretched out, dark, vast, and indifferent.